Is this chicken?
Hell no.
Americans tend to stick to the regular beef, chicken, and pork options. However, people from around the world eat so many other types of meat on the daily. Whether enjoyed out of necessity or as a delicacy, here's 10 exotic meats Americans have never tried. Ostrich.
For those people that don't know what an ostrich is, it's a bird that's the same size as me.
Americans tend to stick with chicken and turkey when it comes to poultry, so it's unsurprising that ostrich is on this list of exotic meats Americans have never tried. However, unlike some of the other meats on this list, ostrich doesn't have the rep of tasting just like chicken. Ostrich is actually considered a red meat that is relatively low in fat with a taste resembling veal more than poultry. If ostrich sounds like something that you may want to try, the lower fat and cholesterol content make this meat a great substitute for beef in many recipes. Ostrich can be cut into steaks and prepared just like a traditional beef steak. All that being said, some may take issue with eating this giant flightless bird they may have possibly seen at the local zoo before. So the question remains, are you willing to give ostrich a try? Bison.
Sir, are you all right?
I have eaten the ribs of God.
When we hear the words bison or buffalo, many of us conjure up images of sundering herds of unimaginably large animals making the ground shake as they stampede across a grassy plain. Well, in addition to being, well, pretty much that, bison is also actually a culinary dish that is enjoyed by various cultures around the world. Like ostrich, bison is lower in fat and cholesterol than beef.
Oh, I could lick you all day long.
Bison can be cut into different kinds of steaks and used in just about any recipe that calls for beef as well. According to people who eat bison, it apparently tastes a lot like beef, but could be described as being on the gamey side of the taste bud spectrum. Americans don't eat enough bison to make it readily available in many supermarkets, and it can currently be found at specialty meat shops, local ranches, and farmers markets, among other places. You can choose from fresh cuts, ground bison, or even frozen burger patties, so you can eat your bison how you want it. Bison is billed as a healthier alternative to beef, so it really does come down to a matter of individual preference, whether or not you are willing to give this random meat a try the next time you have a hankering for a steak or a burger. The choice is yours. Springbok?
Here we've got some venison meat pie. And in the far corner, we have some venison marrow.
It may sound pretty exotic, but in reality, Springbok is just a medium-sized antelope found in the south and southwestern parts of Africa. This wild source of meat is known for its brilliant red color and very fine texture. Both of these qualities have made it a coveted meal in Africa and, more recently, in other parts of the world as well. Springbok is considered to have a fairly gamey flavor that some people compare to its distant relative, North American deer or venison. Springbok can be purchased as steaks, burgers, and sausage, and has even been used in recipes of all kinds that normally call for beef and pork, including the ever-popular fajitas. If you hunt deer or otherwise eat venison on the regular, then you probably don't consider Springbok to be all that exotic.
Eat as much as you guys want. I have 3 deer hanging in my garage.
On the other hand, if you usually stick mostly to chicken and beef, then this African delicacy might stretch your palate a little bit into the realm of the unfamiliar. The somewhat strange and unfamiliar name might put some people off, but if we recategorize this antelope as just a kind of African deer, then perhaps more people would be willing to have a taste. Welsh Lamb.
His first word. Lamb.
It's not just lamb.
Many of us remember Lamb Chop, the cute hand puppet on PBS from back in the day. But for some, the beloved sock puppet's name instantly brings up images of a decadent meal instead. However, when it comes to this type of meat, the most sought-after kind out there has got to be Welsh Lamb specifically. This type of lamb has a long history of being exclusively grass-fed, and as the name implies, of being raised in the Welsh hills. How picturesque! These lambs are raised in the countryside of Wales and are said to produce a unique flavor that meat eaters have coveted for a long time.
I love the smell of lamb in the morning.
People who will go out of their way for this kind of lamb say that it is extra tender and tasty, as well as suitable for a wide range of recipes. There are a lot of recipes specifically tailored to Welsh lamb. Some include things like Champaran Welsh Lamb Handi Curry, Lucy Parisi's Welsh Lamb Slow Cooker Hot Pot, and Welsh Lamb Jalfrezi. This means that there are different meals out there for anyone who is interested in trying Welsh lamb. Wild boar.
When I was a young warthog!
Years ago, pig farmers came out with a slogan about pork being the other white meat. This was a clever marketing effort on the farmers' part to try to get people who eat chicken to dine on pork instead. Enter wild boar into the mix. Wild boar is hunted in many places around the world for its tasty meat, but is this meat also an example of the other white meat? People who eat wild boar say this meat is somewhat leaner with lower levels of saturated fat and cholesterol. However, many people consider this exotic meat to be more flavorful than your average pig.
They call me Mr. Pig!
Flavor is a very subjective measure, but clearly some people prefer wild boar to the pork they can buy at the supermarket. Some people describe wild boar as having a slightly sweet flavor, but this can depend on the specific diet of the animal in question. Wild boar can easily be substituted in any recipe that calls for pork or really any meat, whether it's for chops or tacos. Tacos? Yes, tacos! Even for people who eat pork regularly, wild boar is often considered an exotic meat that many Americans have never tried. However, if you like pork and you can get wild boar, there's probably no reason not to give it the good old college try. Kangaroo.
Kangaroo.
What is that?
Most Americans probably think of kangaroos as foreign animals they would like to see bouncing around while taking photographs, rather than enjoying on a plate. But as for Australians, kind of a different story. Aussies love their kangaroo meat. Kangaroo is very low in fat and cholesterol, and like beef, is high in iron. Kangaroo supposedly has a unique gamey flavor that you can't quite get with other meats, and many people genuinely enjoy it. Much like beef, you can get this exotic meat as steaks, sausages, or ground meat.
Does anyone else speak Australian?
This makes it suitable for many of the same recipes, from pizza toppings to burgers to meatballs. This meat is also available as jerky if you'd like to try it as a healthy snack or on your next hiking trip. Kangaroo meat is produced under strict guidelines to ensure sustainability and quality. This exotic meat is generally grass-fed and is considered healthier than other meat options. There's a growing movement referred to as kangatarianism that cuts out all meats except kangaroo for health as well as moral grounds. Whether they eat kangaroo or not, it seems Australians, unlike many Americans, do not consider this meat to be very exotic, and it has been a staple in their diets for a long time. Crocodile.
I'm alive!
People who have tried crocodile seem to agree that it tastes a lot like pork. Perhaps it's a little tougher and a bit gamey, but still a lot like pork. Some people who eat crocodile would say this meat tastes a little more like chicken. However, these distinctions are all very subjective, so there's really no right answer. Crocodile meat is considered to be pretty healthy, seeing as how it is high in protein and low in fat. With this meat, there are a lot of cuts to choose from, but there is one part most coveted by crocodile meat lovers.
Give it to Mama.
Mama don't want this.
Much like it is with alligator meat, the best part of the crocodile is said to be the tail fillet steak. Many people describe it as being similar to veal. This exotic meat must be cooked very carefully, or it is likely to become too tough. Some experts advise you not to deep fry crocodile meat because it may not retain many of its nutrients with this method of cooking. According to the crocodile meat lovers among us, you can use it in pretty much any recipe that calls for meat, but these are all very personal choices, so you would have to experiment with different recipes to see what is right for you. Bear.
Oh no. We woke up the mama.
Yogi the Bear and his sidekick Boo Boo have long been popular cartoon characters, but have they ever led you to wonder whether or not bears would make good eating? Many of us have heard that bear meat often has a sweet taste because they eat honey and berries. But is this really true? Those who have eaten bear report that it can have a somewhat sweeter flavor than other meats, such as its more savory beef counterpart. You should also note that some bear meat enthusiasts advise against eating a bear that ate a fish-rich diet because the meat can taste strange.
Oh, yes. I'm rumbly in my tumbly.
Keep in mind, you might not always know what a bear's diet consisted of, so you might not be able to guarantee a certain flavor. Bear meat has also been compared to gamey meats such as deer or venison, as well as to pork. It is categorized as a red meat, even though it is lighter than beef. This exotic meat could be used in many recipes that call for pork, or really any meat. Bear meat is often eaten in the form of thick steaks and roasts. There are plenty of choices if you're interested in giving this exotic meat a try. Kind of like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, except with, well, a major role reversal and plot twist. Snakes.
Black Mamba!
You've heard of snakes on a plane, but what about snakes on a bun? Huh? Well, a lot of people are afraid of snakes on anything. To some, snakes are creepy, crawly animals that slither around waiting for the most opportune moment to strike, like ninjas without a purpose. Hi-ya! Add to this that many of them can inject their prey with deadly venom, and you have a pretty unappealing creature, at least to many. Many of us might be skeptical of people who enjoy keeping snakes as pets, and perhaps even more skeptical of people who enjoy snake for dinner.
So good.
Yes, snakes, in this case pythons, make the list of one of the exotic meats Americans have never tried. Although rattlesnakes are eaten in some places, when it comes to snake meat, most of the focus is on the python, which is still considered to be an exotic meat by most people around the world. Like many of the exotic meats, python is higher in protein and lower in fat than many of the more common domesticated farm animals we are more used to eating. The difficult thing about eating python is knowing how to cook it the right way so you don't end up with a chewy, tough mess. Major tip: do not overcook it. Most chefs who cook the culinary delicacy recommend slow cooking the snake and marinating the meat for a while before cooking to increase the tenderness factor. If you cook it right, it should taste a lot like chicken, but with a slightly more chewy texture. Deer.
But now, time for the main course, loin of venison with sweet and sour peppers and broccoli rabe.
Poor Bambi. His mother is killed in the classic Disney animated film, creating one of the most tear-inducing moments in animation history. And if that wasn't bad enough for the popular character, as it turns out, a fair amount of people think venison or deer meat makes for a very tasty meal in real life. For many hunters, American deer meat is anything but exotic. Deer meat is more of a staple for many of them. While deer meat often only has about half the fat of beef, is lower in cholesterol and a little higher in protein. These attributes make deer meat a healthier choice. However, even with all of these things in its favor, a lot of people may be put off by the noticeable gamey flavor that deer meat often has.
I still have dreams about this burger.
If you do decide to try this meat, you can get it in the form of steaks, or you can even put it in a stew. Deer can also be purchased as ground meat, so you can use it in just about any recipe that calls for beef, from meatballs to tacos. Tacos. Deer meat is leaner and tougher than beef, so it must be cooked carefully to avoid making it even tougher. Many people choose to marinate it before cooking. As an alternative, you could always try deer jerky as a healthy snack. Check out more great videos. Just tap or click. Subscribe button and ring that notification bell.